Hey Retro community, how's everyone doing? If you remember back to my September pickups video, you may recall that I picked up an IPS backlight screen for the GBA, as well as a replacement shell. And on top of that, I bought a working but not in a great shape GBA, as you can see here. And the reason I did that is because I did not want to mod my original GBA since it's in really good shape, and I'd rather just keep it original. So I bought this fancy little case here off of Amazon. It has this nice little rubberized textured paint job on there. And the reason that you're going to have to mod your case is because a lot of these light mod kits require you to shave off this area here, as well as trim away some of this as well in order to get the screen centered properly. That's because the screens that they use are a little larger apparently than the original GBA. So because of that, you don't really have a choice. You might also have to trim away some of this as well. Depends on the kit, but that is also why they give you a replacement lens, because of the fact that it's going to be in a different position and everything. The one that came with the, well, let's see, the one that came with the shell kit is probably, yeah, so you can see right away that there is a difference here. There's less of the black bezel exposed on the one that comes with the light kit than the one with the shell kit. So we'll be using this one. All right, enough rambling. We're just going to get started. So the first thing you're going to have to do, well, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to trim the case first, you can. I'm just going to take apart the GBA that I purchased, the donor one. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver to remove the screw in the battery compartment, and you're going to need a tri-wing or tri-tip as well to remove the rest of the screws. I think the kit comes with replacement screws anyway, so, but just in case, hold on to them, you never know. And carefully separate the two if it's possible. Now, in some shell replacement kits, the metal shielding is not included, so you may need to transpose this from the original to your donor case. This one did, I believe. I think it's in there somewhere. Just in case, so I'm going to keep it. And there's the inside of a GBA. I may need to clean some things off. My kit also came with replacement battery terminals, at least for the shell itself. But I still need to go around and clean some things up just in case, because I have a feeling that something might have been spilled on here a while ago. It does work. We did test it in the pickups video, so. I may have to wait until I remove the board. So once you get to the board, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver again. And you'll need to remove this screw and this screw. I don't believe there are any others that I can see. In case you're running on the size, for the Phillips, I'm using a PH1 size. And for the tri-wing, I am using a CRV Y3.0, or whatever the equivalent is with the kit that you may have. Now, my backlight kit did not come with a set of instructions, so I had to go online and look some up for different kits out there and kind of put one together that would make sense. So now I believe we just gently lift this up. Now, I know in this case I'm replacing basically everything but the guts, but I don't want to damage the original screen because I can always use it as a spare for my other GBA. And believe all you have to do is lift these tabs up, separate the ribbon, and that's it. Now, if your replacement shell did not come with buttons or anything, then you'll have to transpose them as well. This is a perfect time to clean everything up. Mine came with buttons, and I'm going to use those. Not sure about the silicone pads, though, if it has those or not. It might not. Oh, actually, no, there are some in there too. So I'll try those and see how those work. These may be better. We'll see. So that's the easy part, believe it or not. And the board looks, yeah, like I said, it's not too bad. I'm going to give it a little bit of a cleaning anyway, just because the speaker has to be cleaned up. And just, a little bit of isopropyl alcohol as per usual. We also use the opportunity to clean the cartridge slot as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera because that's boring. Unless you guys want to see that stuff in the future, let me know. Okay, so I went and cleaned it as best as I could. Like I said, I took a Q-tip with some IPA and just went over the battery contacts, the slides and switches and knobs and things like that, the headphone jack, link port, buttons here, the contact for the actual buttons, definitely the speaker. And there was a little bit of, I don't know if it was just leftover flux or what it was around here. I wouldn't even come off with some IPA. I had to scrape it off and then clean it up with the alcohol after. And there was also some right over here as well. There's a little bit left, but not that big of a deal. Overall, this thing, is in good shape. So now that this is clean, what I'm going to do first is attach the screen to it just to kind of like dry fit it. And I'm going to temporarily, I may put it in a new shell, but probably put it in the old shell just to see if it works. My particular kit with the ribbon comes with both the 40 pin and I think it's a 32 pin connector. Fortunately, this donor board is a 40 pin, so I won't have to do too much. But if your GBA uses the 32 pin connector, I believe you'll have to fold this, which, once you fold a ribbon, that's it. You can't really unfold it. There'll be a permanent crease in there, and you also have to be careful. But that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and get that going and give this a test here. First thing you're going to have to do, and my kit, strangely enough, didn't come with a separate strip of tape, but that's fine because I believe I can just cut some out from the middle here for the screen, because what you're supposed to do is adhere this to the back of the screen itself, and then you fold this ribbon over here to connect to the connector. So at least that's what most of the instructions show. So we'll do that first. We'll connect everything first. All right, well, that's working. And it's definitely backlit, as you can see. So cool. Because you don't want to do all this work and then find out the screen kit itself doesn't work, and you got to take everything apart and ship it back and everything. So always good just to make sure it's working first. Not that, the initial work that you do won't be required later on anyway, but, I'll set that on the side. So for now, I'm just going to leave this be. Because we are going to have to pair the front of the shell itself. And I'll try to superimpose some photos, but basically what we're doing is we're removing this down here to an extent, as well as trimming down this little whatever this is here. So, well, sorry, we're not. I don't believe we're removing this for this specific kit. I don't think I have to. Definitely have to trim these down here and shave off some of the sidewall here, especially around the buttons and things, because of the fact that the ribbon, part of the ribbon may bump up against it and won't fit properly, especially once it's attached to the screen itself. In fact, what I should do, we'll do another dry fit. So you can, I suppose, angle it a little bit slightly, but then it may not line up perfectly with this connector without doing some more bending, and you run the risk of damaging the whole ribbon itself. I think you can get replacements. I don't know for sure though. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll start cutting away a little bit. If you have a Dremel and you're really good with a Dremel, you may want to use that. I'm just going to use some snips. I've got a Dremel, but I'm not super confident with my skills regarding it. I also recommend getting some sandpaper, maybe a file, because this is going to be a lot more difficult to cut because of how thin of a profile it is. This is where the Dremel will probably come in handier. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get some sandpaper and or file and file that down as well as this. Now, with regards to the sides, you need to snip off this piece here, but not this, because this is actually the button support. If you remove this, well, there's really no putting it back on, and you run the risk of the L button at best being too mushy and at worst not working at all. So be careful about that. But you do, some guides even suggest just shaving off a little bit here and leaving the wall up in general. So let me take a look at my notes real quick just to double check and verify which one I want to use for this specific kit, because I did find some instructions that have most of this kit intact. Yeah, so this specific set of instructions say just to shave it down a little bit, not remove it altogether. I need to just file this part down because I cannot get in there anymore without risking the shoulder button supports. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a file and maybe some needle nose pliers, and I will be back. Okay, so I did the best I could. It's not as easy as you would think, but it's relatively smooth here and here. And I did shave off a little bit. Hopefully, if it's enough. I didn't want to really go too much further into it. And I did try to clean it up a little bit. That part in the corner there, I'm going to file down a little further. But for now, I think it'll be good to move further ahead. If it turns out it's not, and I can always shave it down further. Again, do a dry fit before you actually apply the adhesive, because once you do that, it's going to be difficult to remove that screen. So I think I've got it for the most part. It's nice and smooth. You can see here. You can see that I even wore off some of the paint, but that's fine. It's on the inside. Relatively smooth here. Shaved off a little bit along the edge here, and I did trim out this little corner as much as I could. Now, again, your kit might not need that removed. You'll have to figure that out on your own if the instructions aren't included, unfortunately. But there is a lot of resources online, so it shouldn't be too difficult to determine that. I hope that I did take off enough on the side here. If not, I can always go back later. This is why you want to do like another dry fit before you apply the adhesive, because once you put that 3M tape down, that's it. So, but I think that'll be enough for us to continue on with the mod. So We'll do the test fit as I suggested. Your kit may also come with a 3D printed bracket, by the way, or in my case, these little two pieces of acrylic. One goes down here, one goes on the side. It just kind of acts as a buffer to keep the screen from moving and keep it as centered as possible. Not exactly sure. Goes on. Oh, looks like it's roughly the same. So something like that. And this one, I believe, just goes on like that, which is why you might need to trim the bottom away unless, you're good at centering the screen yourself. Yeah, if you see, I might need to shave off a little bit more because of that bracket there. Darn, that's going to be more work. But again, that's why it's always better to trim off not enough than too much. So yeah, that's where the problem comes in. Now, if you don't use that spacer, you run the risk of the screen not being perfectly centered. So this is probably why having a Dremel would be a little bit better. It'll be a lot faster to keep going that way. It probably took me a good 20 minutes just to get that much shaved off because the file I'm using just would get clogged up and I'd have to stop every so often to clean it off further. And I've got different files, but I don't want to have to go and clean all of these. So we get back to filing a little further and we'll do another dry fit. Okay, so that took way longer than I really wanted it to, but you can see that it's much, much, much thinner. And I had to go over with a file over and over and over again several times. So I recommend either A, buying a pre-modded case, or B, learning how to use a Dremel really well. Although this corner here is going to be tricky no matter what, just because of the angle that it's at. It might be better just to cut at least around here, because the start and select buttons will still have support up as part of the case here. So this might not be that necessary, but I've got it filed down and sanded down enough that I can get the screen to fit with the little brackets, the little spacers, without any issue. So next step is to apply the adhesive, and this is basically getting to the point of no return, so to speak. If you're going to do this, you do this, although, again, you're not going to be damaging your GBA, hopefully. So I've got to sit here and think, because there's little cutouts here, and I'm not quite sure where these go, especially since, unless they line up with, no, not really. They line up that way, so it's possible that with this kit, they expected you to cut everything away so that these can fall in here, but I did not do it that way. What I'll do first is separate this here, because we'll use this middle section to adhere the PCB ribbon to the back of the display. Although it might have been easier to apply this before removing this. That's fine, whatever you prefer. I also recommend grabbing a Q-tip or something and with some IPA on it, clean out the area here just to make it as clean as possible for the adhesive, although this type of 3M tape is pretty darn strong, so kind of wish they had cut this smaller the other side, but it looks like they might have cut it a little bit, but didn't go all the way through. Let's see here. Well, that's fine. Your kit might not even come with tape. You might have to or it might not even be pre-cut. So that's applied. We'll use this to rip the top part off so we can adhere the screen. Now, that's basically the next step. we need to do is cut this strip just so we can adhere this to the back of this so it's not flopping around too much. And that should be more than enough. Won't remove this just yet. I'm going to do another dry fit, so to speak. What we have to do next is get the spacers in place. And this is basically it. Depending on how much you've cut, you may have to put a tiny bit of force. Not too much, though. You obviously don't want to crack the screen. That's basically it. Now, again, it's an optional thing, whether you choose to do it or not, but there are these solder points that you can see here, the ground select, right and left. If you want to use brightness control, you're going to have to solder on some wires. Your kit may or may not have come with them. Mine didn't, unfortunately. So I've got plenty of wire laying around, but I'm not going to worry about that now. I just want to get this kit together and make sure everything's working correctly. And I forgot to remove the screen protector on the screen. I just realized, don't do that, because it's going to be almost impossible for me to get that out now. Yeah, see, this is adhered. And now I've got that permanent screen protector on there. So learn from my mistake. Take that off first, because you will regret it if you don't. Let's try this again. Again, we strive for the highest quality work here at KozTech. I knew something seemed off. Now, that's on there permanently-ish. Okay, so again, take this off before you adhere the screen permanently. And unfortunately, I've got a little bit of a smudge on there. I'll have to clean it off later. But the next thing you want to do is, if you're going to solder the points on, solder the wires on here first, and then you're going to route them under the board, and you'll end up soldering them, I believe. Where did we solder them to? I believe you're going to solder the right one to here, the left one here, and there's a test point here, a touch point here for select. I believe you're going to wire the select one there. But you might want to verify that with the instructions that came with your kit or by searching online. I will be verifying that later when I actually do the installation of that. If you're not going to do the soldering, then you can skip this step and go to the next one. Which is to put this foam piece in, which will help protect everything. Your kit might have also come with something like this. Please attach insulating film to the metal surface on the back of the screen. That's to keep this from shorting out, but we're using the double-sided tape as an insulation, so we should be okay with that. And then we also have, obviously, this insulating foam here that on the original was glued to the back of the screen. And this one, it's just going to be floating, which is fine. Then the next steps are, since we're going beyond just a basic mod, because I'm replacing the whole case, it's all of this, including a fake serial number and all of the rest of the goodness here. Some screws, buttons, L and R with built-in springs, which are similar in nature, although let's say even though it's going to be on the inside, it's kind of a rough cut here. Not sure I'm happy about that, but again, it's hidden from view, and as long as it doesn't affect the overall gameplay, should be all right. LED, I don't know what these are called, but it kind of takes the LED light and diffuses it a little, but spreads it out. I think, yeah, so that goes here with my kit. I have a feeling these buttons aren't going to be as good as the originals, but we'll find out. If not, then I've got the originals and I can always clean them up and put them in the case here. They are a slightly different color, shade of gray, but that's fine. The replacement shell kit also did not come with instructions. Completely winging it on my own here. I broke off, apparently, this little guide pin for the start and select rubber. It's really small. I don't know if I can glue it back on. It might not be needed anyway. On off switch. Neat. What else do we have here? L and R. Not exactly sure how those go on. Guessing just like that. Yeah, so that's why they didn't want you to cut too far in, because you need something to brace the spring on the other side there. Let's see if I did the right thing or not. Yep, that's good enough. So you definitely cannot remove that much of the plastic. You'll have to file it down. You'll have to get it as thin as possible to get the screen kit to fit. Now, I don't know if these bumpers go on now or if I should put them on. Of course, the other thing you have to do is get this shield attached. Like that. And that's what these 4 screws are, so that should be okay. And there should just be Phillips screws. Now, these are also self-tapping screws, which means that the holes in this particular shell are not pre-drilled, so this kind of acts, in a way as a way to drill the screws in. Sorry, I only have one shot in for this video. I don't have a B-roll, so to speak, but figured modding from a side view would not be as beneficial as seeing everything from an overhead view. So that's that. That matches up with the original. So then all that's left to do now to attach the PCB. I wonder if they gave me screws for all of that. Also, make sure that your switch is in line with the switch here. seems to line up. I think this foam pad is in the way. Part of the problem is this adds a little bit of extra bulk. I guess there is some room in there. And of course, the other tricky part at the end will be to fold this over and onto the board. So you may want to do that actually even before putting the board on. That's what I'm going to be doing. As soon as I readjust these buttons again. Or we'll just that for now. And I just bumped the camera with my head. I apologize. So there's that. A professional GBA modder, I am not, but everyone's got to start from somewhere, right? Let's look at the rest of these screws here. Oh, these are the shorter screws, so these are the ones for the... Oh, these might also just be for the shell. Let me see. As the ones for the PCB were definitely shorter than the rest. Let me see how these are. There are 3 Phillips screws because you got 2 for the board and 1 for the shell and the battery compartment. So these are shorter slightly than that one. At least they look like they are. So we'll use these. I'm definitely going to have some fingerprints on that screen. I'm going to have to wipe out before I put the lens back on. Okay. Last but not least, everything going to align. The shell does not want to close easily, at least not on top. Let's not force it. Let's see what's going on. PCB is definitely as flat as it can get, so it's not, oh, this side is not. It's recording for a really long time. Gonna have to shrink this video down for sure. Dope. Like I secured the PCB through the wrong screws here. Fortunately, they didn't go through. They're short. But now that I've self-tapped this hole, I'll have to be careful how I retap it. Let's see, these two, the bottom, so that's for the PCB there, left and right. I probably should have just paid attention to my previous recording. That would explain why this top shell wouldn't go on. Again, we strive for the best around here. But look at it this way, my mistakes are your lessons. I swear those buttons are going to be the death of me. Oddly enough, they have 3 screw holes here, but I don't think I remember taking out 3 screws for this, so... And now I lost one. And now... Good. Let's get the L and R attached again, since they keep falling off. Before I put the rest of this together, let's do one more test. Didn't damage the screen, so that's good. Why does it sound like there's a screw stuck in there? Well, I'll take it apart just to be safe, in case one did get lost in there somewhere. Anytime you're putting screws back into plastic, I think I've mentioned this before, but because of the fact that they were self-tapping screws, and in most cases, not just, consoles, any type of plastic, you don't want to just screw the screw in, because you don't want to end up damaging the threads that are existing. So what you want to do is slowly rotate the screw left until you kind of hear a click and kind of feel the screw fall in place. Not quite like that. Let me see here. There. It's hard to describe. One of those things you kind of have to have a feel for. Wow, I really got fingerprints on that screen. Oh well. Let's take care of that now, because the last step is to install this lens. And this is a glass lens, whereas the shell kit itself just came with a standard plastic one. And I'll leave that upside down while I prepare this guy. not quite a perfect fit, and it could be that the case wasn't cut out properly. You can see there's a little bit of a part of the case showing there. It's possible, though, that I might be able to still reposition the screen lens. I'm gonna get a pick of some sort here. That's too soft. Let's see if I can remove this. If not, then I'll just leave it. Maybe I can readjust it. Of course, the only way, real way to get rid of a screen lens is to take the whole thing apart, and yeah, I'm not going to be able to remove it, so that's that. It's just stuck like that. Future KozTech here. You can actually remove the lens if you use a hairdryer on the low setting to soften the glue so that you can lift the screen lens off. I did that, and unfortunately it didn't make a difference. I should probably have cut the window out a little bit. It's also possible that maybe the lens wasn't stamped out correctly, or maybe the case itself just wasn't right, but that's on me. I'm just letting you guys know you may want to do a test fit first before adhering it permanently, especially before you put the screen on so you can cut that window out. I didn't, and now I have to live with this, so learn from my mistakes. That's fine. It's not going to bother me really, and again, this is my first attempt, so I can always try to go back later to fix that up. Of course, the other option you can do if your shell doesn't come with fake serial numbers is try to remove the original ones, but they're going to probably be difficult to do so, if not possible. But that's it. I'm out of GBA. Play a couple of games on there, see how the screen works out, and go from there. So this is the completed project. Didn't go quite as planned, especially with the alignment of the screen lens and forgetting to take the screen protector off the LCD display itself, so I had to half disassemble it. And of course, the whole thing with screws and just get pieces to fit together. But you know what? I'm not gonna, edit a lot of this stuff out just so that you guys can see some of the mistakes you may end up making when you're trying to do this mod. Again, like I said earlier, I recommend just getting a pre-modded case, or at the very least, investing in a Dremel tool and learning how to use it and control it very well. Although, again, you will have a problem with that one corner that I mentioned earlier, so you might have to still file it anyway. But as far as the rest of it goes, the case build itself is okay. It's not perfect, but I like it. I like the textured paint on there and the finish of it. I think it looks really sharp. And as far as the screen mod itself, well, here's some gameplay footage. It's remarkable what a difference there is between a non-backlit and a backlit GBA. Heck, even a frontlit or sidelit screen can't compete with a backlit one. So if you're thinking about doing this to your GBA, or you want to pick a broken one up and reshell it and do it for that, give it a shot. I mean, if you are confident in your abilities, go for it. So, with that said, let's try a Game Boy game, and and again, it's backlit and it'll look great. And honestly, unless you mod a Game Boy Color, or a GBA, you're not going to be able to have a backlit Game Boy unless you import one from Japan, known as the Game Boy Light, which was based off the Game Boy Pocket. But what fun is that? So, but yeah, tell me what you think. I may do another one of these in the future. Just try to hone my skills a little bit more. Not that I'm going to be doing this professionally or anything, but I think it'd be fun to do one more of these and maybe take a little bit better care putting on that screen lens, especially because I think it's going to bother me going forward. But that's it. This is going to be a long video. I may have to cut parts out that are, redundant, speed through things, like putting screws in. You don't really need to see me put all of the screws in and other parts too. So uh, we're going to call it a wrap. What'd you think? If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do so, but no pressure, although I do appreciate it. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down, but please leave a comment below as to why so I can try to use that to make improvements going forward. And I guess that's it. I'll catch y'all later.